Okay, let's do it.
Around the clock, we're gonna rock the rhythm of the beat, down the block. Around the clock, we're gonna rock the dreams you give, the space to talk. Wanna be somebody, be a contender. Gotta reach for the sky. If you want it, fight for it, or kiss it goodbye. It's make it or break it. Try to survive. Don't ever say never. Keep your dream alive.
You know, you watch all these other streams and they make it look so effortless, like it's not stressful at all. And to their credit, they probably put in a little bit more time than we're able to put in. But I was this close, Blake, to scratching this whole thing. This close. And you've been laughing at me for like the last 10 minutes watching me on here. Trying to put this stuff together. He's Blake, by the way. I'm Ronnie. This is All the Good Names Are Taken podcast. And if you're here live, thank you for watching. Blake, it's your show. Go.
This guy has been scrambling for the last 15 minutes, stressing that he didn't have everything he needed in the right order, freaking out over this live stream that's going to get maybe 6 viewers. Calm down.
Well, it's just the fact that feeling unorganized. Like I've had all day to get this stuff right, and something's come up, something comes up, and that's just life. And now here I am, like with like 8 minutes left, trying to put together a PowerPoint of pictures from Tango and Cash, which me and you could talk about for hours without the visual aids. But, you know, it's for the people watching who may not have seen Tango and Cash, because I think if we didn't have the visual aids last week, people wouldn't have believed that Santa with Muscles was an actual movie and that we were just sitting here making it up.
It's pretty wild that we got that question from multiple people, didn't we? Is this a real movie? Are you guys serious?
I think we take it for granted because we're such big Hulk Hogan fans and we grew up watching Hulk Hogan that we knew all of his movies, and that there's a group of people out there that are like, this exists. Hulk Hogan made movies. So there it is. I mean, if my wife probably won't talk to me because she came out of the bathroom, like, I gotta go take 100 pictures of Tango and Cash. I'm sorry. So some of these pictures I'm going to have the freaking pause symbol on there from where I'm screen capturing it. It's ridiculous, Blake. Like I had all kind of stuff I want to talk about beforehand.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even want to talk about it now. Like I wanted to bring up with you Scream, but I could care less about talking about Scream at this point. I'm still trying to like anchor down. Like I didn't want to back this thing up 15 minutes, and I did it anyway. So
what do you want to talk about Scream for?
I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on all the six, just what's going to happen in this movie. Like when I think
somebody's going to get killed in the intro, there's going to be 2 killers at the end.
See, when all I want to say when it comes to Scream 6, is it Scream 6, right? Scream 6 news is Dermot Mulroney is going to be the killer, and he's going to have 2 daughters, his other 2 daughters, helping him. So there it is. It's been spoiled for everybody. That's Scream 6. How's it been since Christmas, Blake?
It's been really good. You know, I'm not like you and our other buddy Nick, who gets all this time off. I'm working every day, but you know, I used to be that guy that after the holidays, I was like, I'm glad it's over. But you know, I think it went by too fast this time. I really enjoyed Christmas.
Had a good time. Got some good gifts. Most importantly, spending time with
each other.
Yeah, my immediate family and all of us when we gather up, the brothers and the sisters and all the nephews and the nieces. It was really calming and really, really good. I mean, unlike you, though, it seems like it's flown by. I'll be going back to work here the next few days. But just the teetotal relaxing of everything up until the last 30 minutes, of course, has been like really good before we hit the grind again. And I know that you're like, when you make the big money like you're back in the work, back in the suck immediately. But you're fortunate enough that you enjoy your job, so it's really no big deal for you.
Correct.
So is there anything we want to talk about before we get right into Tango and Cash? Because Tango and Cash is going to take us a while. I mean, I didn't realize I had this many slides on this presentation. Do we need to talk about going on Nick Push's channel a couple of days ago?
Yeah. Go ahead and plug that. Go get him some more views. That was really fun. I had a really good time.
Yeah, we went on Nick Push's channel talking the WTF moments from Friday the 13th, and we did about an hour and a half with him, and it was really good. He's got tons of interaction. He's got some loyal fans there.
Yeah.
That are there for everything that he does. They would show up for the opening of an umbrella if Nick Push was doing it. But I had a really good time. And if you guys haven't checked that out, go check out his channel. If you haven't subscribed, go subscribe to his channel. Nick's desperately wanting to get to 3,000 subscribers before when, Blake?
Before 2023.
So what's today? The 29th. So you got 2 days, or
Yeah.
he's privately told us he's going to kill himself. So get on over there and make sure that happens. What am I leaving out?
No, speaking of interaction, Ronnie, we got a few in the chat right now. Our biggest supporters are saying, don't worry, no one is watching.
Oh yeah, I saw that's Frank. So, but some
Hey,
people,
Frank, how you doing?
hope everything's going good, Frank. And of course, Nick's in the chat. What's up with you guys and Clint Howard movies? I didn't even put that together.
2 Movie Club
in a row. So, and Nick, based off a conversation we've had in private, he said he's going to buy some subscribers. That's wild to me that you can buy subscribers, and I really don't see what that does, Blake. Like, I never thought we would get to the number that we're at, to be completely honest with you. But I would never in a million years spend money to have fake subscribers, because people are going to look at our views and it's going 8 people.
If I'll be honest, if I would have known you could do that, I probably would have got you that for Christmas.
What, 5 subscribers? Here's 5 subscribers.
No, I would have went for like 500, an extra 500 or so.
Yeah, but does it matter if there's no interaction with you?
Well, I don't guess so.
I mean, who are we trying to impress? Nobody, right? I mean, I know I'm not. I look at some of these YouTubers.
I'm trying to impress you.
I look at some of these YouTubers and I'm like, I hope they're okay. I mean, I really.
Now, see, I get so down when you go down this route. I hate it when you go down this route. It's like you're dogging everybody else that's on YouTube. And just stop, man. Everybody is just like us. They're doing this because they want to. It's an outlet, and they're doing it because it makes them happy. Don't feel sorry for anybody. Feel sorry for the guy in the mirror who was screaming and cussing the last 30 minutes. All fair.
I absolutely zero cursing and screaming. Dramatic. Frank, Tango and Cash is the most heterosexual, testosterone-filled buddy cop movie with the best stunts, ass prison shower shot, and cinema history. That's not one of the things, but he's absolutely right. When you think about this movie, you think about Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone walking naked through the shower once they're in jail. So did we ever review this movie on the audio podcast, Blake? Did we ever get around to Tango and Cash? I'm not sure we did in 100 episodes.
You know, it's hard to remember, Ronnie, because we did quote this movie a lot on that podcast. A lot. You especially with the Robert Zadar quotes.
Or is it Zadar? It's Zadar. Zadar.
Yeah, I can't. I didn't know he was dead. He died 7 years ago.
I knew he. Let me guess. Cancer.
Yeah.
Everything's cancer. Oh, I guess we should plug our little thing down there at the bottom. If you guys want to make any kind of donations.
Whoa!
We've got our Venmo QR code down there. I'm sure that'll get pulled down from YouTube, but who cares? So it's down there if you want to add us to $1 or $2. There's really nothing we can do for you if you give us money other than spend it. But we're just going to make you aware. Look at that. Almost there it is. Down there.
So you did that so YouTube couldn't take 30%, right?
Well, absolutely. But I'm sure I'm not the most niftiest YouTuber in the world. I'm sure this whole thing is illegal, but who cares? We'll just claim ignorance.
Yeah.
Uh,
If you guys donate to that, I'll be able to put batteries in this thing.
A lot of people are asking the same questions, Blake. The best movie you saw, in 2022, but most people are saying best horror movie. What's the best movie you saw 2022?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's probably Tango and Cash.
I haven't seen that many new movies. So Beverly Hills Cop is the best movie I saw in 2022.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what.
No, that's honestly the truth for me, because I did watch Beverly Hills Cop 1 for the first time this year. I'd always watched 3 because we had it on VHS as kids, but I actually went and watched that. And yeah, but no, to answer your question, the new release movie, I watched Smile, and I really enjoyed that. I don't know if I liked it more than the Black Phone, because I really liked the Black Phone.
Yeah, Black Phone was good. I did enjoy that, but I think I enjoyed the creepiness of just the whole aspect of somebody in a black van, because we grew up in the South.
Devil worshippers.
Yeah, the devil worshippers in the white vans snatching people up. So I think that like tapped into my nostalgia for the fear of that. I thought it was really creepy. Black Phone. I really don't know. I didn't see a lot of movies.
I did. I didn't like Black Adam. I didn't. The Batman was good, but was it my favorite? Probably not.
Was that 2022?
It don't feel like it, does it?
No, I didn't like it. I think I went into it not wanting to like the Batman just because everybody said it was going to be great, and I was hoping secretly that Batfleck would come back, and I was sort of mad about that. But now all that's over with. We need to branch. When we branch off into talking about, I'm like, I could do 50 videos right now.
Let's do it.
If I had the time, talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. That's my most forward. I'm looking forward to that movie the most in the next year and a half whenever it comes out. I cannot wait for Deadpool and Wolverine. I really can't wait for it. I mean, absolutely.
That's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun.
All right, let's switch over and let's transition right into Tango and Cash. So here we go. Trying to remember the first time I watched this movie. There's so many facts about this movie from doing research over the last week, and the only thing that's coming to mind after the race I was in over the last 30 minutes, I think this was the last movie released in 1989.
Yeah, I read earlier that it came out on Christmas Day, December 25th, 1989. So
when I think about this movie, there's a lot of rumors about who could have possibly played Cash. I know there's a rumor out there that originally it was intended for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't believe that one bit. I can't buy him as Gabriel Cash. I know that they said there's multiple stories involving Patrick Swayze. One was that he blew his knee out in Roadhouse and wasn't able to do this. Another one said that he turned down this role for Roadhouse. And if that's the case, that's a very wise decision on his part. I know you said the other night you would have loved to have seen Swayze in that role, but I think Kurt Russell made the Cash character completely super entertaining, and anybody else there, I think, would have been overshadowed by Sylvester Stallone, who did his best to be animated in this movie and sometimes.
Well, let me ask you this. You say it was a wise decision for Swayze to turn this down to do Roadhouse. Is Roadhouse what it is today if Swayze doesn't take that role? Or did Swayze make Roadhouse a good movie?
That's a really good question. It would depend on who else. See, the whole brilliance.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go where you're going. Who would you put as Dalton in 1989?
The whole brilliance of Roadhouse is that he went to NYU and has a philosophy degree. He might even have his master's in philosophy, and he looks like a regular guy, but he can beat the hell out of anybody. I think Swayze and that character of Dalton is why Roadhouse was so good, because if you put a jacked up 80s action star in there, you expect him to do everything that Swayze did. You don't expect Swayze to be grabbing somebody and breaking the end of a damn table with his head. That's what makes it so impressive, is that he's
So you're saying Swayze made the movie?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Swayze
okay.
made
So who's to say if Swayze took this cash role, he doesn't elevate this film to the next level?
You see, when I think about Swayze as a cop, and Nick says Swayze made Roadhouse, when I think about Swayze as a cop, I think about Next to Kin, and I really didn't buy him as a cop in a big city. I pictured him as a cop somewhere in the South because of his accent. So if he was a Los Angeles cop, I'm not sure I would have bought it as much as I do Kurt Russell. So, and there's a good chance that Swayze could have made this role work, but this role required him to be sort of like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon without the crazy, just the antics, the hilarious antics.
Okay, so think Bodie. Think Bodie from Point Break.
Yeah, but Bodie doesn't have a lot of like humor from him. Bodie, if you remember, and I know you do, Point Break, Bodie's psychotic, but
Okay, so think Tu Wong Fu.
I mean,
Okay, I know I've got you off topic here, Ron. I just want one more scenario for you. Kurt Russell as Dalton in 1989's Roadhouse.
You just saying that because you know how much I love Kurt Russell. I don't think it works. I mean, Kurt Russell's a pretty big dude. I don't think it works. I think the whole point is Swayze comes sauntering in there with his dance body and he starts just whipping people in a bar. So that whole movie, that's another movie that's just perfect. Roadhouse is perfect. I know there's a lot of perfect. Sam Elliott is great.
Roadhouse, Godfather, they're perfect.
Ben Gazzara shouldn't be menacing as a bad guy because he's 100 years old, but he is. I mean, that movie's good. That movie's good. Let's see what Frank said. Can you guys tell me what was the point of the RV from hell and how little effect it had on the movie? Owen made it seem like it was an effing transformer. So what he's referring to is the end of the movie. Owen, who is Kurt Russell's Q, has a armored vehicle which looked like a minivan that was jacked up and is supposed to be able to go through a wall like a tank. And I thought it did really good. It took like 4 or 5 missiles before it finally went down. So, I mean,
no, I agree with him that it was pointless. You think that it's going to, I don't know. First off, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. I get it's supposed to have like this futuristic look with all these cool weapons coming out the side, but
they use the same sound effects for it as the what's it called? The DeLorean from Back to the Future. It's the same sound effects of it driving as the DeLorean.
Yeah, I feel like they made a big deal about it, and we spent 3 minutes inside of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big payoff. That's what she said. But I mean, it's got all the cool things you need. It's got nitro. I mean, it's got the little monitors inside so they can talk to Owen. It's bulletproof.
I love how like for like a split second, the movie just turns into like a real life version of the NES game Off Road. There's just trucks everywhere. You know, those pickup trucks and Bigfoot. I mean, it's just chaos at the quarry.
It's great because this movie went through a lot of problems, and there's lots of people out there that know about these problems way more than I do. But there were multiple directors. Sylvester Stallone was Stallone behind the scenes, causing this one to get fired, that one to get fired. He jumped in and he even directed it for a minute. He worked on the script. Do you know your effing lines and things like that? There is no telling what this movie was originally meant to be, because I don't think it was originally meant to be filled with as much humor as it is. I think it was supposed to be like a freaking just 100-mile-an-hour action movie with a little bit of drama in it.
Well, I mean, this movie hits all the buzzwords for me, Ronnie. You know, blockbuster, 80s cheese, buddy cops. I mean, and it does, and I read this too, but it does feel like the last big movie of the 80s, you know? I mean,
but it wasn't. I mean, it barely made its money back at the box office. It was nominated for Razzies. Didn't get any good reviews.
It was the VHS that really put it over the top, though.
You would think, nice reference. You would think that a movie with Stallone and Kurt Russell. You know, Kurt Russell turned down Bird on a Wire with his wife to do this movie. So
he also turned down the Mel Gibson role in Lethal Weapon, which is one of the reasons why he took this movie, Ronnie.
See, I didn't know. Why would he turn down that role?
It was to take on another role. I can't recall right now, but yeah, he was supposed to be the Mel Gibson character in Lethal Weapon. And let me ask you this: as big as Kurt Russell fans as we are, is Lethal Weapon better with Kurt Russell? I don't think it is.
I don't think Kurt Russell could play that psychotic element that Mel Gibson played in Lethal Weapon, because Mel Gibson, we found out later on, really is psychotic. So, I mean, but Kurt Russell's a good actor. So this movie had it all, though. It had everything it needed to be super successful and to be, we're still talking about it 33 years later, but it's got Jack
almost 33 years to the day.
Yeah, Jack Palance is playing a really cool boss at the end. It's almost like he's the boss from another movie, but I mean, he plays that role really good as the boss that's watching the screens the whole time. I mean, he's 90 years old. What are you expecting him to do? Curly, well, I say that Curly was doing one-arm push-ups at the Oscars. So I mean, there's a good chance he could have.
I love that you brought that up. When I see Jack Palance, I think of three things: him doing push-ups at the Oscars. You guys go YouTube it right now. Curly from City Slickers 2, because he plays his brother. He plays Curly's brother, right?
What's Curly's brother's name?
Straight? Duke.
Duke, that's it. Good call. Good pull.
And Joker from 1989, which is also the same year as this. So what a year for Jack Palance, getting to play the Joker and the bad guy in Tango and Cash.
I think we're the only ones giving him any credit for that. This movie starts off with a pretty awesome shot. You got a helicopter shot. You've got Sylvester Stallone chasing these guys in an 18-wheeler. And for some reason, beyond my comprehension, he passes the 18-wheeler, drives 2 miles down the road, and then sets up in the middle of the road with his car, shooting at the people that are coming. All right. So let me back it up. One, he does this little thing where he like opens up and spins it and puts 6 new bullets in. He drops 6 good bullets, puts 6 new bullets in, and shoots at the windshield. So is he trying to run them off the road? Because if they were smart bad guys, they would run over him, his little car there, and kept going. Okay. Because I don't know if you know this or not, one of the guys driving, instead they hit the brakes and they come out the windshield like this, like idiots. All right. And I couldn't get a good screenshot, but if you look right here to the guy on the left, he's still wearing his top hat like Corey Feldman from Dream a Little Dream, even as he comes out the windshield. So there you go. The guy on the right's Robert Zadar. So they hit the pavement, should be dead. And he throws the handcuffs down there and tells them to cuff themselves. Now, here's a fun fact, Blake. This was supposed to be the end of Robert Zadar in this movie. But Sylvester Stallone, as he took power and got more, authority to write and add people in, decided to expand his role because his argument was, look at this guy. He's so striking to look at that we've got to make him a bigger villain in this movie. So if you were ever wondering why he seems like a low-level criminal here at the very beginning, and then in prison he seems like one of the big heavies, it's because they rewrote his character as this whole monster process of a movie was taking place.
Can I ask how the 18-wheeler stops if the driver and the passenger both go out the windshield? I mean, who's holding down the brakes?
See, I think the theory behind this is they hit the brakes so hard and maybe even pulled the parking brake.
Okay.
That when that happened, it shoots them through the windshield. Which is ridiculous.
You know, Stallone talks about Zadar being striking. I mean, that one slide you had where Stallone is wearing his suit matches the car. He's clean shaven. I mean, this dude he's a superstar, man.
That's stud city right there. And it also sets the tone for Ray Tango and what type of character he is in this movie. He is...
What kind of car is that?
That's a Mustang, right?
I don't think so. I guess it is. 89 Mustang?
Could be. So if you're in the chat and paying attention, what kind of car is that? Frank said that's Mr. Maniac Cop. Yeah. Robert Zadar, Maniac Cop, Samurai Cop. If you want to go check that out, I think he's in that movie.
He is
as well. But yeah, it sets the stage for the type of character that Ray Tango is. They mentioned he's a stockbroker. He makes tons of money and
dresses like a banker.
And he's completely clashes from Kurt Russell's Gabriel Cash.
Can't afford it, Nick.
This guy right here, he is my low-key, one of my favorite characters of this movie. He is the chief or the captain of the precinct where Sylvester Stallone works. And he comes walking up and he goes, "What's going on, Ray?" He goes, "We got guys laid out on the pavement. We're out of our jurisdiction. Feds are everywhere." Turns out that the whole truck, this guy right here gets in his face and says he thinks he's Rambo.
I tell you, that guy's delivery, I don't know how Stallone didn't say this guy's electric. He needs to be in more scenes because his delivery to Stallone screaming in his face, he's just like a local townie cop too.
Is he?
I mean, that's what I'm assuming. Because, they mentioned that Stallone is out of jurisdiction, right? Didn't you mention that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, Cadillac Alante.
Badge, I want your ass, pretty boy.
Yeah, I mean, he gives him the business. Can you go back to the captain, though? I want to point out something real quick. Doesn't it look like he got an important... His beeper went off in the middle of his haircut, and he got up and left?
Well, if you look at Frank's comment down here, this guy's wearing a toupee. I know that because he's bald-headed in the movie Double Impact with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, we got to do that movie.
Yeah, he's got a haircut like me, so they've got a great wig on him right here. And he steals a lot of the scenes that he's in. Frank says it's a Cadillac Alante. So I don't know if that is a real car, but
always nervous with Frank. It could be one of those things where he's getting us to read a word that ends up being something dirty, when you say it all together.
Because he knows my no cuss rule, so he's trying to make me look stupid, possibly. So here's what's great. They're checking this tanker truck, and there's nothing but gas in it, sir. And this guy reads Tango the Riot Act, cursing. He's Rambo. And Sylvester Stallone pushes him to the side and shoots the tanker. So I'm going to ponder this question for you, Blake. What if he was wrong?
We don't get a movie, Ronnie.
What if he was wrong and there was no drugs? I'm guessing this is cocaine. There was no cocaine in there. It was just a tanker truck full of gas. He would have blown up everybody there.
My thing is I'm trying to figure out this tank because I do have tank experience, believe it or not. I was in the oil field for a little while. Is there like a divider?
Yes.
But how do they get the coke on the bottom though, and get the fuel to sit on top? Is what I'm trying to figure out. Is there's got to be two openings, right? And they got it divided, and one is for they put fuel in one and they put coke in the other.
I don't know. But okay. Here's the middle level of the car. Okay, let me use this so the gas would be up here.
Yeah,
and coke is down here. What if Tango would have accidentally shot the up here part, blew up everybody, but there's still coke?
So here's my next question, Ronnie. To get the fuel out of a tanker, you got to run rubber hoses, right? And it's like a vacuum suction. How are they getting that coke out? I mean,
maybe there's like a thing at the bottom of
like an emergency hatch. It just falls out.
It just falls out like sand. I don't know.
But what was your reaction? Do you remember your first reaction to them mentioning Rambo and then Stallone acknowledging Rambo? Because mine, as a kid, was the same as it was, about 2 hours ago. I was excited. I love when movies do stuff like that.
I love the fact that Sylvester Stallone called Rambo a P. So I mean, I think that was to try to get. I think, to be completely honest with you, Blake, I think that's a trailer moment. He thinks he's Rambo, and then you see that it's Sylvester Stallone playing another character. I bet you if you watch the trailer, that might be in there. But I think it's just one of those lines. It may have been an ad lib. You never know. And Stallone's like, yeah, I like that. Keep that in there. But it's a great line. Whenever you hear that and it mentions other characters that they played, I mean, it's always
fun. It's fun.
That's the correct word. So now you're introduced to Gabriel Cash, Kurt Russell, and right away they want to show you he's a man of the people. Now, what kind of car is this? Because this car looks way more.
I'm pretty sure that's a Cadillac Elante.
He's driving a Cadillac Elante too. Kids running up next to him. A lot of newspaper work, Blake, in this movie. A lot of newspaper. Like the transitions of the movie are usually newspaper headlines. And I didn't get both shots here, but you see right here, he busts another 200 kilos up top. You've got Tango making a stop. And right away.
Hey, Ronnie, did you mention Jack Palance like passing by Stallone in the 18-wheeler?
No, I didn't. I was going to save and wait for that. But
okay.
As this is happening, as the whole Ray Tango busting the cokeheads is happening, Jack Palance, whose name is Perret in this movie, comes driving by in his limo. And right away, we're introduced to him in like a Dr. Claw moment from Inspector Gadget, because you see his hand and he's talking to these other two guys. And let's wait just a second to talk about that, because I got a lot of questions about. It's like a movie needed to be made before this movie. It was like this was the last movie of a trilogy that we never saw.
Look how good looking this guy is.
This dude's gorgeous. Right. And he's almost dead right off the bat because this Chinese guy comes busting through the mirror. I don't know how the Chinese guy knew he was there, but he comes busting through the mirror of the door and shoots him twice. Then you find out he's got magic boots. He's like James Bond. He shoots him with the heel of his boots that Owen gave him. Now, I saved this shot for one specific reason. If you're an older guy, you know that this right here means blown out knees, blown out hips, back tore out, everything. This guy dives out the window, lands on top of this car, and takes off. And not only does he do it, but Kurt Russell jumps out too. Kurt Russell lands on the sidewalk, which would have mean he would have been laid out for months after that. But instead, these chased him through the streets of Los Angeles. They go into a parking garage where, of course, it wouldn't be an 80s action movie if a bum with a buggy full of cans wasn't about to get hit. What's the deal with these bums, Blake? I mean, it happens in Speed. I mean, are we supposed to think that every homeless person is so messed up that they have no idea of what's going on around them?
I mean, I really don't know how we're supposed to feel right now. Are we supposed to think, man, these homeless people are always in the way, or are we supposed to feel sorry for them? Because, I mean, he's got quite a haul in that buggy. If you look, the buggy's slammed down full, and he's got a cardboard box hanging off the front that's also full. And I'm noticing right now, he's got a bag on the side of the buggy that's also full. So, I mean, this dude's looking at like $6 or $7. I mean, he's going to be able to enjoy a nice little meal that day until our boy Kurt Russell comes through.
I think Kurt Russell is the Chinese guy or whatever Pacific Rim guy runs over him. He's got to scream and tell the person to get out of the way. This guy right here is from a movie called Armed and Dangerous. He might have been in one of the Police Academy movies too. Blake, by the way, we're going to review Armed and Dangerous here pretty soon. This is one of those scenes in an action movie where the cop takes somebody else's car just to trash it. Now, based on some of these dummies that, based on some of these dummies that think any movie that takes place in Christmas is a Christmas movie. So are these Christmas presents he's got, or is this birthday presents?
You only get one birthday present. That's the rule. And there's multiple gifts there. So this has got to be Christmas. So I think we can go ahead and stamp this one, Ronnie, that Tango and Cash is in fact a Christmas movie.
No, it has nothing to do with Christmas. So there you go. Let's check the chat real quick because I need a break. Same two guys every time, and I love it. You can tell most extra actors were probably retired one-year failed football players. That dude did look roided up, and that hair that he had was amazing. Frank back again. California's a dump. Tell us something we don't know, Frank. And of course, Nick Push is getting the Seinfeld line, and he's heading to Michigan. More money per can. There's bottles, though. The only thing that bum is missing is a tiny dog inside the cart.
Didn't Newman thought you had to pay
to give it back?
To give it back. Why would I recycle? I ain't paying 2 cents a can, 2 cents a bottle.
Jerry goes, why do you think the bums are always collecting the cans? I don't know. They're deranged. So he steals this guy's car. And they're banging around, crashing in the cars. And of course, 80s style, there's 2 people getting it in one of these cars in the parking garage. And it disrupts them. But they go right back right after they drive away. So
this movie checks all the boxes.
Cash crashes him and then gets him. How's the head feeling?
Hey, you know when the cop steals the car, hey buddy, I need this. Has anybody ever put up a fight in a movie? I mean,
I think so. I'm sure.
Has anyone said that's not happening and they actually fight with them?
In Armed and Dangerous, they roll the window up on John Candy when he says it. Anyway, this guy says he's from Perestroika or whatever. I couldn't pronounce it. And then our final introduction to Kurt Russell is Welcome to America. So now we've been introduced to the main 2 characters in this movie. You can take sides now. All I know is every time I see Kurt Russell, that freaking hair is amazing. If I had hair, it would look exactly like what Kurt Russell's hair looks like in Tango and Cash. Desperate Housewives is in this movie. Sylvester Stallone. They purposely did this to us, Blake. They made us think that she was his girlfriend. And you don't find out till later in the movie that it's his sister. And she says she's going on a dance tour to another country, and he's trying to get her number so he can keep in contact with her. Then later on, after they escape from prison, we find out she's a stripper. So what kind of strippers do dance tours in other countries? That doesn't happen. And you can't tell me that she's not a stripper. She's dancing in her underwear, beating a drum later on.
Well, I mean, if that's all it takes, then I'm a stripper too.
Would you say the original title of this movie was?
The Setup?
The Setup. And this is where we first get the notion or the idea that something is happening. This is a throwaway line right here. Cash goes back to his precinct, and you get to meet his captain that looks like he had a stroke. And he pulls his pistol out for a second and goes, who's been screwing my gun? Because his sights were off. And somebody says, maybe you drop it. It's a little throwaway line before he goes to deal with the Chinese guy who tried to kill him because he wants to question him.
I mean, looking at that picture, Ronnie, I'm not a gun expert, but can you adjust those sights? I mean, isn't that?
I wouldn't know.
I don't think you can adjust those sights.
More just, this is the peak male, guys. He got shot. He takes that shirt off, and this is the shirt that he puts on. Another shirt that's ripped.
That freaking hair, man.
It's glistening. So he goes in there. The guy claims he doesn't know any English. This is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. He puts the chair over the guy's throat, and the guy is immediately speaking English. And one of the cops walks in on this scene right here and goes, what's happening here? English 101. So here's my thing. We later find out that this guy was supposed to give this information to him so he'll show up at the time they needed him to show up so they can frame him for something. But he busts through Kurt Russell's door and shoots him in the chest 3 times. If Kurt Russell's not wearing the bulletproof vest, he's dead. Or if Kurt Russell falls out that window and breaks his neck on the sidewalk, he's dead. So Perret's plan of framing these guys and making them criminals wouldn't work. The whole point in him not killing him, or either one of them, is that he wants to not make them martyrs. He wants to make them criminals that nobody likes. So that was kind of confusing. I mean, and I know this thing went through so many script drafts that they probably just never caught it, but he shot him 3 times in the chest. Anyway, he gives him a time and location of where to go.
Maybe Jack Palance already had the hit out on him before he come up with the framing plan, Ronnie.
Same time across town, the captain for Tango lets him know the same address and the same time. So they're both going to be at the same place at the same time. I always thought it would be better if the captains were on the take at the end of this movie too, because especially this guy right here, because he was such a scene stealer whenever he was in the movie, in scenes. And he pretty much says, "Why are you a cop right here?" He goes, "You make a ton of money, you dress like a banker," and he goes, "Action." So you know immediately that Sylvester Stallone is bored and he does this just for the thrill of it. And Frank just pointed out it's a different toupee.
If you want action, once you get married, is that an offer?
Is that a proposal? That's it. I can't talk. I'm still trying to recover from the beginning of the show. So here's your first look at the bad guy hideout. And I don't know how we call it a hideout. We'll just call it a base because there's no hiding in.
Looks like they got satellite TV
at the top. And this is what I wanted to. You got Brian James looking like an awesome number 2 villain right here until he actually speaks with his terrible English accent. You've got the dude from Big Trouble in Little China. You got another guy that's a big bad that I want to talk about here in a minute.
You know him from Big Trouble in Little China. I know him from Wayne's World 2.
Then you've got Jack Palance. You've got Curly. And he's playing the main bad guy. And the reason I said this feels like the third movie in a trilogy, because let me back it up one. The guy from Big Trouble in Little China, his name is Quan. The guy behind him is Lopez. They are supposed to be the 2 biggest bosses in town, crime bosses in town. But we're introduced to Perret and find out that he is the one that's pulling the strings of these 2 supposed huge crime bosses. So there needed to be more backstory to these other guys. It seems like these are the 2 guys that Tango and Cash have been battling in Los Angeles for years. And this guy's got the coolest setup because he's got TVs everywhere and he's got every major bust that Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone has done against him playing over and over on these TV screens. He is obsessed with these 2 cops and he's thought about the perfect plan to take them down because he says death is too good for him.
Tango, Cash, Cash, Tango. If it isn't Tango, it's Cash. If it isn't Cash, it's Tango. Hey, ponytail guy, where would I know him from, Ronnie?
Brian James?
Sure.
You would know him from Armed and Dangerous.
God, how many times are you going to mention that movie?
Shut up and sign the effing form. That's him from that movie. He's also in the movie. Oh, what's the name of it? It's the movie everybody knows. It's got Harrison Ford in it and the robots. Jesus.
Star Wars.
Yes, there you go. No, the other movie. It's a Cabin Boy. I'm going to check the chat real quick. I need a break. All right. Frank says there's no action when you get married. I beg to differ, Frank. Nick, speaking of no action, here's Nick Bush. Security room at Kohl's when I got busted for shoplifting when I was 17. Nick, if you really got busted for shoplifting at Kohl's when you were 17, please give me all the details in the chat. I will just totally stop this review right now, especially if you're stealing panties at Kohl's.
What are you stealing from Kohl's, man?
Panties is what he's stealing. He was 35. Oh, so
I love how Kohl's had the same setup as Perret did with all the TVs.
That's how they caught him. They saw him over in the corner sniffing the underwear, and they focused all the.
Look at that guy with the backwards hat stealing our stuff.
So here he is, Brian James, and I still hadn't thought of the name of the movie. That you know the name of the movie. Nick, somebody in the chat, help me out. What's the name of the Harrison Ford movie that's got Rutger Hauer?
It's Cabin Boy.
It's Cabin Boy? Okay, I'm going with Frank. It's Cabin Boy. So he lets them know really quickly. He tells Lopez and Quan. We're putting them in jail. I've got a plan. Y'all shut up. Trust the process. So both Tango and Cash show up. Blade Runner. Nick got it. Blade Runner is the name of that movie. He's in Blade Runner. So you go, at least I think he's in Blade Runner. I think he's the one that says he's in some movie where he goes, "Wake up, time to die."
That was Axl Rose.
Oh, okay. Anyway, they both show up and they're following this guy, which I thought was super comical that he's slowly walking in circles. So both of them, God, stop the review. This is where you know him from, Blake. 48 Hours. You know him from another 48 Hours, Blake, because that's the movie we had on VHS for the longest time. Him and the bad guy from Red Heat. Also the bad guy from Lethal Weapon that they burned Joshua's arm. He goes, "Man, you guys are out there like Pluto, man." Him and this guy right here are the two partners of Nick Nolte from part 1. And then in part 2, you find out that he's the Iceman.
He's the bad guy.
He's the bad guy that's been pulling the strings since part 1. That is where we know him from, because I've never seen Blade Runner. Great pull, Frank. 48 Hours. Another 48 Hours. Totally underrated. I like it better than I do the original 48 Hours. And I know that probably is blasphemy to some people, but good Lord. Anyway, they both follow him there, and it's a big setup. Look at that hair on this beautiful human being. Great cinematic shot right here of Kurt Russell. And this is where our two heroes meet up for the first time, and Kurt Russell tells him, "I'm going to splat your brains on the wall." And Sylvester Stallone lets him know, "Your sack would have been on the wall if you'd have done that." Because there you go. Gun right in the D, Blake. I'm going to make you talk, Blake. I can't carry this.
Well, I mean, listen, you have all these run-on sentences. There's never a pause. So, I mean, I had a lot to say, but I couldn't get it in edgewise. But look, Stallone and Kurt Russell on the screen for the very first time. I mean, it's just dynamite. And every scene they share together is must see. I mean, there's no slow points in this movie once these two get together. And when they split up after the jailbreak, you're disappointed because you can't wait until they reunite. But this is a really cool scene because, they're both for the LAPD, and I'm assuming, it's much different out west than it is around here. I'm assuming LAPD stretches over, obviously all of LA, but multiple precincts, right? Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah.
So these two hadn't had time to run into each other. They just read about each other in the papers, super cops or whatever.
They work at different precincts. Sylvester Stallone's in Beverly Hills, and you're supposed to think Kurt Russell is in just regular LA.
Right. And, let's see. I think Tango says to him, "I hear you're the second best cop in LA." And Kurt Russell, Cash says, "That's funny. I hear the same thing about you."
So here's the scene where they bust in on this guy, and he goes, "What's the score, babe?" And they find this guy that's already dead, and he's wired, and they can't figure out why this guy is wearing a wire. And it cuts to shots of a tape device going. They're recording their voice, and you find out that Perret has this huge scheme to frame them for murder. The FBI comes running in. David Arquette's dad is here picking up a gun that belongs to Kurt Russell. A lot of interaction back and forth. You've got the guy right here that ate the spider and arachnophobia. Blake, here's one thing I want to point out when we get to the courtroom scene. Just how many people in this movie have been on episodes of Seinfeld.
Okay.
Here's one right here. You probably don't remember him.
No, you're going to have to help me out.
Babs Kramer, when they go to get the coat is at Kramer's mom's house. He's the guy that talks about what kind of huge drunk Kramer's mom is, and Kramer attacks him. So here's your more transitions with newspaper headlines. They're arrested and charged with murder. They play the audio for the two captains, and you hear each one of them's voice as they're communicating with this guy that got killed. And the bad guys have played it perfectly. And you find out that this elaborate scheme was put together by the guy right here that was on that show Evening Shade with Burt Reynolds. He was also in The Green Mile. he's
Yeah,
like,
he's the guy with the mouse in Green Mile.
he's the voice tape expert, the utmost expert in the field, and he put it together and he authenticates it and says, yes, these are the two guys that are. And what's great is when they're having these courtroom scenes and all these people are like saying how guilty they are. Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone are like, remind me to rip his tongue out with a tow truck, and I'll bring the chainsaw and I'll bring the beer.
You know, it's just so wild though, Ronnie. I get it. It's a setup. There's dirty cops that are in on it, but they show up and they're like, what are you two doing here? Did they ever stop and think, oh yeah, y'all are the best cops at the precinct. That's why you're here ahead of us. I mean, it's just immediate. You must have killed this guy. You see what I'm saying? Like it's so out there and wild. Like I would understand like after they hear the tapes and after everything else, they're like, okay, you guys are suspects. But it's like right away, you two are the killers.
Yeah, they don't give them the benefit of the doubt. And maybe it's because at first I was thinking these guys are always making the big bust. So possibly everybody that rushes into this room has been paid off by Perret.
Well, yeah, and everybody there just immediately agrees with these guys. Like you guys are the bad guys. But if you go to the courtroom scene, which you are right now, like Kurt Russell still has a room full of supporters in there, you know? So I mean it's bizarre.
Yeah, it's really bizarre because these guys are super cops, and you would think they would be like, oh, Tango, Cash, what are y'all doing here?
That's Elaine's boss.
Yeah, that's Mr. Lippman. So here's another Seinfeld alum. Mr. Lippman is in this movie. He plays the
I can't shake your hand. I got germs.
Germs. And if you want to go back, Blake, Quan, who is the guy that's from Wayne's World 2 and he's from Big Trouble in Little China, he was in Seinfeld as
Seinfeld 4?
4. There you go. So there's another one that's in there. And they even bring the Chinese guy that Kurt Russell beat up, and he's doing the whole can't speak English gimmick again. And the interpreter goes, Mr. Cash assaulted me. He put a chair on my chest and sat in it. And Sylvester Stallone looks over at him and goes, couldn't find a piano.
That's so good, man.
These guys decide they're going to take the plea deal before they finish the life in prison. Why are you laughing?
Somebody put Cartwright in the chat, and that's what he says in Seinfeld. Cartwright? Costanza's waiting on a phone call, and James Wong says, Cartwright?
So here's another Seinfeld alumni in this movie. The judge plays the guy that works at the pharmacy when Elaine's trying to buy out all the sponges.
The Today Sponge.
Then he comes back for the last episode and he's on the witness stand and he's like,
they're for sex. She bought him for sex. This movie's fantastic, man.
You gotta wonder if they just went to the set of Seinfeld and got like a handful of these guys off of it.
I mean, this is 89. This is when Seinfeld started. It's like, is it being filmed next to the lot? And they just say, hey, all you guys come over here.
Oh, God. So they take the plea deal, and Tango gets up and gives this eloquent speech about, if I'm guilty of anything, it's probably being too rough. Speaking of something that's current, being too rough on criminals when I bring them in. Nick with a great line.
Now this scene here, Ronnie, I would argue that Kurt Russell's actually dressed better than Stallone here.
Well, this California casual versus super dressed up. Like if me and you got dressed up, we would be like, because we're from the South, we would look like Kurt. We wouldn't look like Kurt Russell. We dress like Kurt Russell with this and some blue jeans. Tango is wearing like a full Ric Flair suit.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kurt Russell's allowed to speak, and he tells them all it effing sucks, and the courtroom goes nuts. And then we get another transition. Guilty, 18 months, and it's supposed to be like a federal prison that they'll get to play golf and make fun of it, of how easy the time will be. So you get the celebratory scene with Perret, Quan, and Lopez, and they go, Mr. Perrette, what happens in 18 months when they get out? And he goes, guys, what makes you think they're ever going to get out? But this whole bad guy scene where they're drinking champagne with each other because they've actually gotten a victory is great. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, how many things that these bad guys have had spoiled because of these two cops over the last, 5 to 10 years, and now they're both off the road at the same time. I mean, it's a big deal for these guys,
Nick is chiming in with 18 months for murdering an undercover federal agent. If you paid attention to what the newscaster saying in the movie, they were seeking life sentences for both. All the evidence was severely damning towards Tango and Cash. Why would the prosecution take a deal? It seems like they would have took it all the way to the end and got their conviction. So Nick bringing up a great point, and 18 months for murdering a guy. Well, they did plead guilty to manslaughter, they didn't mean to kill him, but he just ended up dead. They shot him in the head. We didn't mean to kill him. So when they arrive, guys, it's not a federal prison. They are at the place from lockup that Sylvester Stallone was in, the worst prison imaginable. Kurt Russell with the great line, I don't think there is a golf course here. And this was always one of my favorite.
Well, Kurt Russell called it too, Ronnie. He said, I'll tell you another thing. They're going to put us in general population. And Stallone says they're not going to put us in general population. And they walk into this hallway of the jail, Ronnie. And
I've got it.
There is fire falling from the ceiling.
Yes.
There is toilet paper and trash and pillows being thrown.
This whole damn place is on fire. There's no way this is not this place doesn't burn down. Like the screen capture that I've got right here, if I would have waited 3 seconds, it's like somebody lit 4 mattresses on fire and put them against the wall.
It looks like an 80s movie, the last day of school of an 80s movie.
There's just shit on fire edit everywhere. It's crazy. But before that, they get the shower scene that apparently is Frank's favorite part of this movie, and they're trying to figure out who set them up. Is it Quan? Is it Lopez? Is it Quan? Is it Lopez? You get Kurt Russell to give his Stallone impression.
Oh, wow.
They talk about...
yeah, you don't know. Stallone got to keep his gold chain.
Yeah, that was... yeah, I did read that. Like, they would have took that immediately. This whole next scenario is great for me. Here's where Robert Zadar version 2 shows up after the rewrite where Stallone was impressed with how big that jaw was. Now he is like literally insane. He is like, this is why I can't do live shows, Blake, with people in the actual comments, because you read stuff like this right here and it just pops me every time. I love Frank. I really do. You know, even though it's technically probably 3 o'clock in the morning over in England, you got to wonder why Darren doesn't have his ass in here supporting the show like Frank does every night.
Well, Frank's a fan, man. He supports other people. He gives back, whereas the other guy don't.
What did they say on Seinfeld about Stan the caddy? Frank's the man.
Frank's the man.
So he is like rattling off the bar right here, and I can't quit looking at that. That jaw looks so fake. It looks like his whole face looks like a deflated football, and it's curled up at the bottom. And he's like, "Bring them to me. Bring them here."
Ronnie, I know you won't know who this is because I think it was past your time, but my kids were fans. So when we get done with this live stream, Google the Crimson Chin.
The Crimson Chin?
Yeah, it's a superhero. I think it's Crimson Chin. And Robert Zadar, if he wasn't dead, especially with all his comic book movies, he would be the Crimson Chin.
Hold on.
You're looking it up right now?
You said Crimson Chin.
I think it's Crimson Chin.
He looks like the Tick.
My boys used to have a video game. You see it?
He's great. All right. See, this whole next interaction is like my favorite part of the movie because they're in hell. It's literally raining fire around them as they walk. And Kurt Russell's already told him it, like you said, he goes, they're gonna put us in Gen Pop. He goes, they don't put cops in Gen Pop. And as they're walking through there, they're getting threatened with rape and murder. Somebody said they're gonna put brown sugar in them and I wear them on their shirt, and they're walking through there and they're trying to ignore it and be hard. And this guy's banging on the bars. And as they walk by, he gives him the hey punk. And this scene right here totally this is what the movie is to me.
Look at his jaw.
It's animated Kurt Russell. Yes. He gives like this loud, high-pitched Adam Sandler like voice, and you can look at the smile on Kurt Russell as they walk by. Zadar goes, "Hey, punk." And he starts to threaten him, and Kurt Russell goes, "You know Captain Dynaball here?" And he goes, "Yes, I loved you at Conan the Barbarian." And he grabs his head, which is always great when he gets a dig in at Arnold Schwarzenegger about how ugly he is. He grabs his head and he smashes it into the bar, and all you see is that blood, that blood everywhere right here.
That hurt, man. That really hurt.
It hurt so bad. He was talking so much noise, and he grabs him by the head and he just breaks his face on that bar. Oh my God, it's great. And here's Clint Howard with them rotten teeth
and that rotten hairline.
So if you're keeping score, as I wipe my eyes, Clint Howard played the Smog Strangler in an episode of Seinfeld.
Wow.
Oh God.
This is the best movie ever.
What is great is we're introduced, and I did have a clip or a screen grab of Kurt Russell with the guy he's in there with. He's in there with a gigantic black gentleman, and I wanted to have it on there, but when I did the screen capture, it just looked awful. But he's the guy, the fat guy that Deuce Bigalow shows up with that goes, "Ooh, did you say steak?" He's like dressed like a fat woman in Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo. But he tells him he can't use the toilet. And then Kurt Russell agrees immediately when he sees how big he is. Sylvester Stallone is stuck with Clint Howard. This is what I would be if I was in prison. Clint Howard's playing with his slinky, and he's got all his newspaper headlines up there of stuff that he did. He goes, "You see that? I killed her." Stallone's like, "Congratulations." Oh, my goodness. And anyway, the next scene you see of this guy, he's got the slinky wrapped all around his head. So now we're getting into the main part of the movie, if you want to call it that. Perret has sent him to a prison where he's pretty much got all the guards paid off. They kidnap him in the middle of the night, and they end up in the bottom part of the prison where there is a great fight with everybody. And Perret actually introduces himself, and they go, "Well, who are you?" He goes, "Just think of me as somebody who doesn't like you very much."
This is the part where it loses me a little bit, Ronnie, because this prison is insane. This prison is absolutely insane, which, we should have known that when they're walking in and there's fire falling from the sky. But these two get kidnapped from their cell. I mean, are all the guards in on it too?
Yes,
I mean,
all the guards.
Because later on during this scene, some guards come in to save the day. Like, all these prisoners are about to kill these two, or not kill them, because they have the opportunity to kill them and they don't. They're about to torture them. And then Jack Palance and his crew are somehow in the basement of the prison. I mean, how are they getting in and out? It's just mind blowing. And I will talk about it later in the movie. It seems like Zadar has power over the guards at one point. He's like telling them what to do.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Brian James comes out there and puts his straight razor to their throats and is threatening them. You get that loud rant from Kurt Russell about, "If you're going to slit my throat, go for it and use my head for an effing bowling ball if you want to, but let American do it. And this guy comes walking out, and Sylvester Stallone's, oh crap, it's Conan. He goes, what? He goes, it's Conan. I think this might have been the first movie where I heard FUBAR. Because Kurt Russell says, oh, we're going to get major FUBAR now. And I tried to get as many screen grabs of Zadar as I could, because this poor human being is like half Rocky Dennis. It's like if Rocky Dennis's head deflated a little bit. He is one of the ugliest human beings ever. And he's got his nose taped up from where Stallone broke it. And he talks about this guy on the outside, he broke my ribs, my ribs, my leg, and my jaw. You get the, oh, you broke that jaw line. Look at this guy, Blake. If you ever feel bad about the way you look, Nick Push, look at this guy, because it could have been worse. You think he died from being ugly?
No, stop it.
I'm just asking. I didn't know. Look at that face. Look at those ears. Look at the top of those ears.
I'm going to say this, Ronnie. He's not a bad-looking guy.
Are you serious? You're just trying to be different right now.
What's the purpose of me being different?
That's my question. Frank's got a point right here. You can't get a pullover over that head. He's got to wear button-ups all the time. And I have a giant head, and I know all about button-ups. Look at that face. What's great about this is Kurt Russell calls that jaw out too. He goes, you broke that jaw. Coolest part of the movie to me is these two guys double punching Robert Zadar. Wouldn't you agree, Blake, or do you have another coolest part of the movie?
I have another coolest part of the movie.
Okay. For me, it's this whole fight scene with them double punching. They're beating the crap out of all of these inmates until they bump into each other. And that's a common theme in the movie. They work good apart, but they don't work so good together until the very end of the movie. They're saved by what you said, Blake, appears to be the only 3 or 4 guards in the prison and not bought off. And this guy, Matt, who used to be Kurt Russell's commanding officer, he tells them, look, guys, whatever y'all did, whoever y'all got in it with, he wants you dead, and this place is the best criminals money can buy. So y'all have to escape. He puts them on a certain duty so they can escape. And Sylvester Stallone tells him, I don't like your plan, and I'm not doing it because I don't trust this guy. Which leads Kurt Russell trying to escape.
Are we skipping over them getting electrocuted?
Well, I don't have the screen grabs for that. I don't have the screen grabs for that. But they did.
It's just a really cool scene of them lowering Kurt Russell down, and Tango's like, Cash, no. And Kurt Russell's like, it's all right. I'll be fine. And as he gets closer to the water, he's like, oh, mother. He starts freaking out, panicking,
Well, you also get to find out a little bit, because as they're hanging there with their toes in the water while Brian James electrocutes them, Kurt Russell asks, do you have any family? And he says, yeah, what about you? And he goes, I'm going steady with an alimony check, which means he's divorced. And that's the first time they ask anything about each other in the whole thing. They do the whole, how old are you, to see who can give the speech back in the courtroom scene, but they lie to each other. But yeah, that's a good call. And I wish I'd have had that screen grab, but they were going to kill him. They were going to electrocute him and kill him right there that night if those guys hadn't come in and broke it up. But Kurt Russell decides he's going to escape and leave him in prison. And of course, it's not a setup, but they do find out that Kurt Russell's trying to escape. They killed his buddy, Matt. He's running along. Like you said, Robert Zadar is leading the guards. And right before he's about to be killed, Sylvester Stallone shows up and shuts down this fan, and they get loose. Now,
what are you doing here? I got lonely.
I'm gonna skip through a bunch of stuff, because there are some great scenes in this escape part of this movie. The elaborate things that they have to do. They have to climb to the very top of this prison. And there are some really good shots of them in the rain, climbing up the pipes, the ladders. And then the whole idea about how they were going to escape is absolutely insane. It requires them jumping off the side of a building, catching a wire, throwing their belt over a wire and sliding down the wire over the fence, dropping about 50 feet onto the ground. It is pouring rain. It would take a lunatic to do this because, first off, how do you know you're going to jump far enough to get the cable? And then with it pouring rain, how are you going to grip the cable? This is impossible, but it's two really cool shots of how they did it. And I mean, there's some high tense moments in this escape, even though you know they're going to get out. This is a goofy action movie. This was really cool, and the cinematic shots of it were really great.
Yeah, this was my coolest part of the movie, Ronnie, is the whole escape scene is really, really awesome. And them jumping off the building to grab that in the rain and then holding yourself up with one hand while you take your belt and wrap it around. It's just insane, brother.
I couldn't have done this because I can't hold my body weight up. I'm dead.
You ever try that thing at the fair where you just hang for 2 minutes?
I did that at work the other day and was surprised I could hang there for about 8 seconds, which is, I don't know.
What's happening to Zadar in this scene?
He's electric, brother. So Kurt Russell looks at him and goes, "Since I owe you one, I'll let you go first." And Sylvester Stallone looks at him and goes, "We're going to fry. No, you go first and you still owe me one." He goes, "Are you even going to try this if I don't make it?" He goes, "I don't know." He jumps and catches and slides out. As Sylvester Stallone goes, Zadar comes up, trips him. The water is ankle deep on this rooftop at this point. There's electric wires everywhere. I mean, why didn't the electricity from the wires shock everybody that was in the water? What was that?
I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. This is a big fear of mine, Ronnie. Big fear of mine because you know how scared I am of electricity.
Yes, come in.
Yeah. My biggest fear is family interrupting the live stream, but I'm terrified of electricity. And this guy going out like this kind of freaked me out. In fact, there's an intense scene with Stallone and Kurt Russell walking sideways to fit between this contraption. And it's just, I don't know. This one kind of spooks me a little bit. But yeah, it's a really good fight scene. Like, Zadar has access to this grappling hook thing now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a prisoner and he has access to this, and he's just beating the crap out of Stallone. Well, Stallone's able to, get it off of him, get loose or whatever, and that causes Zadar to fall back into this and electrocute himself. Now, do we think he's dead after this?
Oh, without a doubt. I love that his last thing is he screams tango before he dies. That's his last words. But Sylvester Stallone does the whole wire trick, and as he hits the ground, he goes, "That was fun." You can tell it seems like in every action movie, whether it's Rambo or whatever, Sylvester Stallone's always breaking his ribs, or there's some kind of rib action getting hurt. I know Schwarzenegger did it too in Commando. His ribs were hurt, but it seems like that's the easiest thing to go to whenever good guys are.
That's what Hogan did in a lot of his matches too. He'd be like this,
selling the ribs for the bear hug. Here's these two gorgeous guys, and Kurt Russell hits him with, "I really do owe you one." And Sylvester Stallone tells him to go to this club. "If you're looking for me, ask for Catherine. She'll know how to find me." And what do? The minute they're out of jail, first we're introduced to Owen right here, who is Kurt Russell's Q. He comes up with his exploding bazooka boots and all the little gadgets that he's got.
Now, has Owen been in an episode of Seinfeld?
I don't know.
It feels like he has, but it doesn't. It's not, I don't know. Let me see real quick. I'm going to look it up. You go ahead and describe this scene.
Oh, no. He just goes to him for clothes. In the meantime, Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell go after the people that caused them to have to go to prison. I mean, Sylvester Stallone shows up with David Arquette's dad right here and says he's going to put more iron in his diet. And he goes, "How much do you pay him?" And he goes, "My life's not worth anything now." So Cleopatra's, I love that Frank knows the name of the club, Cleopatra. Frank really is the best.
He was in one episode of Wings. He was in Tales from the Crypt. He was in House of a Thousand Corpses. Wow.
Yeah, he's the guy that's plunging the toilet, him and Captain Howdy or whatever the clown's name is.
Homeless guy in Scrooged.
Yeah, he's the one that freezes to death.
Right. He's in Sleepaway Camp 3. Great movie.
You've never seen it.
Yeah, but if it's anything like the original, the first one, it's really good.
I think they got worser.
I doubt that. What horror movie gets worse as they keep making them, Ronnie? All right, I'm sorry. I'm done. Go ahead. Go ahead. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hold on a second. I wonder. I think that's our first.
What'd you do?
I didn't do anything. I mean, this is our first little mess up as far as stuff goes. Let me remove that for just a second. See if I can get back where he's going. My thing is, did it kill the broadcast? Are we still here?
Nick Push says you're back. You guys are good. Don't worry.
All right. Well, my computer just totally shut off. So we'll make it through, Blake. Ain't nothing going to hold us back, baby.
I ain't worried about it.
I'm not either. Boom. Here we go. And we're
all right. Back to the beginning.
Back to the beginning. We got to start over, guys, because we're completionists. All right, real quick. Let's figure out what people have been saying. He's in a sex scene in part 3, which means Frank has seen. What's the name of that movie? Sorority House Massacre.
Sleepaway Camp 3.
Sleepaway Camp 3. He has a sex scene in it. I don't want to see that. Nick Push chiming in with the and you're back. You guys are good. Don't worry. So, what is the etiquette? Because this is our third live stream we've ever done, Blake. What is the etiquette if it shuts down the whole stream? Do you just start another stream to finish it off, or you just say screw it and leave?
I think we just say screw it and leave the fan wondering what happened, and we put out a message the next morning that says we'll be back tonight to discuss what happened. Maybe we'll get an extra viewer.
Well, I mean, that's a good question. A couple of you in the chat, Frank and Nick, have you ever been a part of a stream where it's just shut down and you had to start a complete new one? Or do you guys just, what happens? Frank says you just blame YouTube. Like, I just freaked out at that point right there. I called my wife and I was like, hey, I've worried about all that for nothing. After an hour, the computer shut down. So I think it was totally on my end, Blake, because you stayed in, right? Or did it shut you down for a second too?
No, when I saw that you were froze up or whatever, I immediately X'd out of my phone. I was fixing to go to the living room.
I love how much effort we put into this. It's great.
I mean, what do you want me to do? Carry the rest of the show? You got all the slides.
That's true.
I mean, what do you want me to do?
No. Okay. Yeah. Because you're on your phone. You wouldn't be able to do it.
I'm on my phone. And like the next thing that would happen if I did get going is you would call me and interrupt the thing to tell me what happened, you know?
Believe me, brother, I would not have called you. I'd have went straight across the hall to the bed and wondered what happened. Thanked Frank and Nick for making this entertaining. So Louis Arquette gets blowed up before Tango can take him in. Kurt Russell shows up for the guy that was in Evening Shade, and he says, what are you doing here? And he goes, well, I'm the one that recorded your voices, and they made me authenticate my own work. Plus, you get to see Kurt Russell use the one-handed shotgun method. Then Kurt Russell goes to Cleopatra's, and that's when you find out this whole dance tour that we talked about earlier that Terry Hatcher said she was doing. She's a stripper. She's up on stage in her underwear, beating on a drum, dancing at what is probably the either worst or best club around. Look at this guy right here, though. If anybody should be up there dancing, look at that hairline. Just look at this. What a lucky guy. What a lucky guy. Some guys hit the... Now, why is Kurt Russell in drag, Blake?
Well, I mean, listen, you got to be creative to get him out of there, right? So, I mean, They do the whole gimmick where Terry Hatcher comes out in a biker outfit with a helmet on, so naturally cops stop her because they
Hey,
think.
real quick, interrupting you. Terry Hatcher on an episode of Seinfeld.
Oh my gosh! But yeah, they take the helmet off, and because they suspect it could be Cash, and it's her. Well, then she's like, "Hey, Linda, come on!" I think it's Linda. And out comes Kurt Russell, and you got to imagine like the whole crew was standing off to the side laughing because Kurt Russell, like he always does, he owns the scene. Man, he comes out there smoking.
Look at that necklace. He looks like one of those African tribes where they put the rings on the neck. And
yeah, they make their neck like 4 foot long. And this idiot cop who's
Adam's apple. Okay, yeah, that's why they did it, to cover up his Adam's apple.
Yeah, this idiot cop, you know, who's barely got this hat resting on his head. Hey, how about a 3-way?
They both throw their cigarettes at him, which leads us to a scene back at Terry Hatcher's house.
We also get a great line from the cop that we can't say on YouTube.
There you go.
About something being on bikes.
You just had to get it in, didn't you? Back at Terry Hatcher's house, she's working slip disc from his back into place. Sylvester Stallone comes in, thinks they're having sex. Sees
why would he think that though?
Because of the way they're going. I'm like, you get out of my face. Somebody's walking towards the door. You almost had me there. Somebody's walking towards the door. He sees it, jumps over the couch, and in one of the best corny lines of the movie, this guy right here wearing his third toupee of the movie says, "Is this the way you screen all your guests?"
Wow, that's a good line. That's a really good line.
He's got him by the throat, dude. Who's got a screen door in a condo too, by the way?
Everybody had a screen door in 1989. Stop it. I will say this though, Ronnie. I thought the scene with Terry Hatcher, you know, fixing Kurt Russell's back, I thought it was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
I get why they did it, but doesn't that just seem out of place?
It does in this movie. There was no need for any kind of like sexual.
They could have just been sitting on the couch having an intimate conversation, getting to know each other about what's the worst part about being a cop and the worst part about you know, having a relationship with a cop. Because at this point, Cash doesn't know it's his sister. He thinks, you know, it's something more. You know, they could have just been having a good get to know you conversation instead of doing that, you know, goofy sexual talk that I'm not going to get into. But and then have Stallone come and, you know, think he's saving him because he sees somebody trying to come through the screen door.
The captain. And there's a great screen grab that I don't have where he goes, "You want a cigarette?" And Kurt Russell goes, "No," and then takes his. And he goes, "That's it. You guys have 24 hours to clear your name. This is as long as I have to get this, to keep the feds off of you." That's a good point by Frank. He goes, "What do you want them doing? Painting each other's toenails?"
Well, no, I wouldn't like that either, if I'm being honest.
They could have been just what the whole point of the scene was for Sylvester Stallone to think they were being intimate. So
I get that, Ronnie. I get that. I just think it's unnecessary.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
All right. Maybe my computer will go out again. I won't come back next time.
Hey, you ever been mad?
I am right now. They go to Brian James' house and they hang his ass out the window. But he's not scared. So the next plan is to strap a grenade into his mouth right there, and he pisses himself because he's so scared, because they do bad cop, worst cop, and they find out that the guy that they're looking for, his name is Jack Palance, aka Perrette, and he tells them exactly where they need to go. Now, what I thought was cool right here is this wasn't Brian James trying to trick them. This is the first time they've had the drop on the bad guys where they actually find out some information. The problem is they don't kill him, and he's able to get back to Perrette to let him know they're coming. So there's no surprise, because he leaves. Apparently, he leaves this scene. He gets loose and goes and kidnaps Sylvester Stallone's sister. So they really should have dropped him off that building. I know I wouldn't have.
Yeah, and one thing we hadn't brought up yet, Ronnie, is multiple times in this movie, including this scene right here, we've almost gotten a high five between the two heroes. And every time it goes to happen, they either pause and stop or it's interrupted by something else. And I wonder if by the end of the movie we're going to get that high five.
You would think so. So they go see Owen, and Owen
Look
shows
how bad this looks. This looks so bad. I'm with you, Frank. This is something else that's not necessary. Like they didn't need this gimmick to go through there. They didn't need this.
You got to wonder if this vehicle was in the original draft of the script or the 50th draft of the script. Like, did Sylvester Stallone want a supercharged tank vehicle added in whenever he did his once over of the script? I like it. You guys can be Debbie Downers all you want. Anytime you get in a futuristic vehicle that's supposed to be a tank or something like that, I'm all for it, guys. And I love the scenes of them driving through this maze as they're trying to get to Perret. It's almost like you said earlier, Blake, it's video game style where they have to go through all those small little guys before you get to the big bosses. They go through all of the crap, the explosions, people on tractors, cranes. They get out and there's some great action scenes where they're using machine guns to kill people. There's a lot of violence at the end of this movie. Up until this point, there's been violence towards Tango and Cash with them just beating up the people that were trying to kill them. In this part of the movie, they are killing people left and right. So this is like real severe violence going through. Yeah, Frank, it was supposed to go through a brick wall, but it never does. And there's like these regular trucks that's got the miniguns set up on them that's firing away at this supposed armored vehicle, and it takes a couple of missiles and rockets before it finally explodes. And you get that really cool scene of them ramping up the hill, and Jack Palance is watching all this from his boss lair where he's like, yeah, get him. He's like, I mean, so for as corny as this movie is, and as corny as this super vehicle is, it's a really great scene. And I think the things that get lost is just how violent these scenes are. All right. And Frank's got a point too. It is sort of like a scene. This looks like a scene from Terminator with tons of explosions and a futuristic vehicle. But I mean, I think this was the Sylvester Stallone influence, if I had to guess, of what he wanted to see this movie like. You got to remember, Sylvester Stallone was the first person to be chosen to do Beverly Hills Cop, but he wanted it to be like a severe, super violent action movie. So, you know, he wanted to be Cobra. So this is Sylvester Stallone's influence right here. Now, it can't be a 80s boss layer without the self-destruction alert button that lets everybody know, hey, the place is going to blow up in 11 minutes. So now they're racing the clock to find Perret before the thing blows up. And you're right, Nick. Stallone did Jamie Lee Curtis this movie, and he does that to a lot of the movies that he's in because he believes he should always be the writer and he should always be the director. And sometimes it works out for the best, and sometimes it doesn't. I would really like to know what was originally intended for this movie before it became a bastardized version of Lethal Weapon and all the 80s buddy cop movies. And before
Ronnie,
go ahead.
If you're a bad guy, why do you hit the self-destruct button?
Giving up.
Yeah, but he's not giving up though. Like
he's still going at the end of it. Yeah, it seemed like he just should be sitting there if you just want the whole damn thing to blow up.
And like if him and his guys win, they still have to haul tail out of there, you know? Yeah. Because at this point, Jack Palance is still alive. Ponytail's still alive. I mean, we still got some heavy hitters.
Quan and Lopez are still alive.
Exactly. Like it's not over yet, but we prematurely hit the self-destruct button.
Emergency alert system. It's like every time it clouds up here. So Terry Hatcher's been kidnapped by Brian James. Kurt Russell keeps the red dot on his eye like Friday the 13th, part 6, but eventually he drops it. Brian James makes a good point. He goes, I'd love to kill your sister right here in front of you, but instead I'm going to kill you. So he squares off with Kurt Russell. Sylvester Stallone takes on this random karate guy, sort of like in Batman 1989, that shows up and tries to kick through the wall or whatever, and Sylvester Stallone takes him out. One of the best deaths in the movie is Fubar, big time, because he throws the grenade down his pants and throws him down a stairwell and blows Ponytail apart. Fun fact before I forget it, Blake, or before the computer dies again, Brian James was also supposed to have one scene in this movie. He was supposed to have one scene in this movie, which was the prison scene, but his accent, his terrible English accent that he was doing, calls Sylvester Stallone to say, we cannot let this guy only have one scene. So he was written to be a bigger bad guy in this movie as well. So it's two characters that would have been in the movie just for a minute that ended up having bigger scenes because Kurt Russell either liked the way they looked.
Stallone.
Stallone even liked the way they looked.
That was a good decision. It was a good decision.
Yeah. Frank says maybe the mirror room was a bunker, and it could absolutely have been because he's got the perfect setup here. So he definitely could have had a bunker. Maybe everything around the mirror room would have exploded. They kill Quan and Lopez, so now it's just down to Jack Palance, and Jack Palance is standing in the middle of a state fair mirror room.
Yeah, it's not a bad guy lair if you don't have a separate room with a sliding door that opens up and reveals 25 mirrors. And what is this, Ronnie? I mean, what is this?
This is ridiculousness, and I love every bit of it. I would have never been able to figure out what was going on here, but Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone are talking to each other the whole time. And apparently Perret is just going to hold them here until the place explodes. And he goes, kneecaps on 3. Yeah. And earlier in the movie, when they first met up, they said on 3, and then Kurt Russell went on 2. So they go 1, 2, and both of them shoot, and they shoot him right in the head. So he takes 2 in the forehead and drops. And they're untying Catherine. He goes, how'd you figure it out? He goes, the ring was on the wrong finger in the mirror. And he goes, the pocket square, whatever it was reversed in the mirror, whatever he had going on. So I go, look at us. Aren't we brilliant? They get out of there. The place explodes.
Now, was Jack Palance dead?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Phineas Gage style, maybe it just went through parts of his brain that he won't be able to think straight.
That's such a good shot of Stallone and Kurt Russell together, man.
That is an awesome shot of Kurt Russell, and there's the pause button, and Sylvester Stallone together. You brought up something earlier in the review. Every scene that they're together is like really, I want to say momentous, because at the
Dynamite.
time, you're not used to seeing two big action stars together. It was almost like these action stars were too selfish to do movies together. I didn't understand it either, Frank, how they were able to figure it out. I mean, do you shoot at, I mean, it seemed like he was standing in the middle of all the mirrors. Why not just shoot in the middle and kill him? So I don't understand.
Well, I mean, the mirrors are angled, so I'm assuming he's pointing the gun directly at them. So, I mean, I don't get it either. Like, you see what I'm saying, Ronnie? I mean, like, if all the mirrors are angled, he's going to be pointing the gun directly at you.
At them, yes. So that's where they need to be shooting at. Then at the end of it, you brought it up. We get the high five from Kurt Russell, from Sylvester Stallone, and the movie ends with a newspaper transition to the credits of Heroes Again, Tango and Cash, back on the force. Fun fact, I have a printout of this right here on the door of my office at work.
Yes, you do.
There you go.
It's a shame, and I get why we didn't, but it's a shame that this didn't spawn 2 or 3 sequels with these guys working together.
What'd you break?
I'm sorry, I shifted my entire body weight.
Yeah?
And knocked the phone off the table.
Oh, okay. I don't think anybody's watching to care, but this is just one of those movies, and I'm going to piggyback what you just said, Blake, that I would have watched like 10 sequels with these guys in it. That they were good together. Like Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell were really good together, and I feel like now there aren't enough action stars to do buddy cop movies. I think everybody's doing the LeBron method. And what do I mean by the LeBron method? You just get 4 or 5 guys together in a big movie, like the Expendables and like Fast and the Furious. And there's not like any singular action stars out there that can just team up as a tag team anymore.
Yeah, it's what is the last buddy cop movie that we got? Like what comes to my head is Rush Hour, but I know we got one since then. I mean,
Rush Hour might be the last buddy cop movie that we got.
Why did that genre die, Ronnie? I mean, why think about it? Why did police movies die? When's the last time we got like a police movie? I mean,
like Police Academy.
Yeah. I don't really get it. And to me it's a shame that these two didn't do more stuff together. I know I did read that Stallone offered him the part of Church in Expendables and he turned it down.
Yeah, like you go to the Expendables, why would Kurt Russell at no point has ever been hurting for acting gigs. You can't say the same thing for Stallone. Stallone was hurting there for a long time for these acting gigs. That's the reason he had to get.
That's why he did Driven.
Yeah, Rocky, and he had to bring back Rambo.
Well, I think it's more of he didn't like the way those stories ended. I think it was more of that than.
Here's the thing. No, he was broke.
He's not broke. Stop.
Dude, are you kidding me? He's got to be broke. I mean, okay, let's think about this for a second.
Hey, what about his Danish joke in this movie?
Talking about Bridget Nielsen?
Yeah, because he just divorced her.
Yeah, I hate Danish.
He wasn't broke, Ronnie.
Okay, well, you're probably right. Who would be the 2 people that could team up in a buddy cop movie right now that are known that would make a big difference? I mean, you're going to say The Rock, but at this point, The Rock's larger than life. So, I mean,
Ronnie, I don't think I can name 3 action stars right now.
Jason Statham, but
he's 60.
Yeah, I consider those guys all tainted now that they've done a movie together or 3 movies with the Expendables. So, even Harrison Ford jumped in there for one of those movies. I think it was 3. So, and don't get me wrong, I love those movies. I love seeing all those old guys that I watched and wished had done movies together back in the 80s and the mid 90s. Finally seeing them in a movie. And I'm just like, what took you guys so long? But I'm finding it hard to think right now of young action stars that could, Gerard Butler. He is a good action. He's a good action guy. That whole what's the name of that movie? London Has Fallen. That whole series of movies was really well done. And I don't know, Blake. I mean, I'm drawing a blank right now. That'd be a great video that we could do. It's almost like there's no action stars anymore. I'm going to pull this up. Nick Push says there are no action stars anymore. It's only superhero movies. There are no insert name here movies to see anymore. And he's absolutely right. There's remakes and horror movies and superhero movies. There's not just like, and then you've got The Rock who does these action movies, but there's nothing like that used to be in the 80s where, if you could just go to the video store back in the day and there's just 4 aisles of action movies just from the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know. Is it a dying genre? Daniel Radcliffe is pretty good at what he does. Who's Daniel Radcliffe?
I think that's Harry Potter. Why is that funny to you? Like Michael Scott? No, not Harry Potter.
I was thinking he was talking about the guy that played James Bond. That's the reason I clicked on it. That's Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why that's so funny to me. Oh, that would be that's a whole genre of videos. All right, Tango and Cash, 1989, Blake. I love the movie. I really love the movie. And it's movies like this, and it's movies like Monster Squad, and it's movie that people didn't go watch at the movie theater at the time, so we didn't get sequels to it. 1 to 10, what are you rating Tango and Cash?
This is a 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's very strong. It still holds up. Kurt Russell is amazing. Stallone does really good in his role, and the bad guys are good. Jack Palance is awesome. This is fantastic. I love this movie.
I'm going to go 7.5 is what I was thinking as well. 7.5. I love this movie. Yeah, I'm very aware of all the faults of this movie. I love the absurdity of the bad guys. I love the absurdity of the story and how they're just able to go to jail. And it punches every button that I like. And I love how animated Sylvester Stallone is in a lot of these scenes. I hate that there was so much drama behind the scenes and they went through like 4 directors, but maybe it made for a better movie. Who knows? I mean, will we ever get the original cut of the movie? No, they burned all that by now, but I really would like to have seen the original script. I wonder if there's a way to find the original script of this movie to see what all was changed. And I don't know, 7.5 out of 10. If you haven't seen Tango and Cash, make sure to check it out. It's a good movie. Real quick.
What's next for us?
I was going to let you decide. No BS. You guys do a fantastic job reviewing movies. Very fun to watch and hear you guys' thoughts. Nick, you have to say that because you're a nice guy, but thank you. Thanks for everybody that's tuned in tonight. Thanks for Frank and Nick for being interactive. What do you want to do next, Blake? What is next week? I've got some thoughts, but we did action the last 2 weeks. Do we stay with action? Do we go horror? Do we go another genre? What do you want to do?
I would like to go see the Corey brothers, the two Coreys, and review License to Drive.
License to Drive. You got it, buddy. We'll do License to Drive next week. What day next week? You want to try to keep it on Thursday?
I do not care.
All right. We'll a tentative date for a week from today, next Thursday. Next time
you and the ums, man.
Yeah, I don't care. The next time everybody will see us live, it will be past New Year's. So everybody have a safe New Year's. Do we need to do the whole SAP speech to everybody?
Yeah, it's been a great year.
It has been it's been an amazing year in my personal life. When we decided to move our audio podcast over to YouTube, I didn't expect as much interaction and involvement from people as we've gotten. We hit a pretty major milestone that people say is good in 8 months, which is I'm really happy about that. And hopefully in the next year, we add even more audience. I love interacting with everybody on this platform. We've met tons of people who have been very supportive. Nick Push, Jake Blaster, that whole crew, Zach Cherry, the Slaughtered Lamb guys, Frank and Darren have went out of their way to promote us. For what reason, I don't know. We've never asked them to. They've just done it out of the kindness of their hearts. They're really good guys. So head over there and subscribe to their channel. But if you're watching us, you probably already have. Same for Nick Push. Go subscribe to his channel. There's a ton of good YouTubers out there, and everybody always says the same thing is you got to make sure your YouTube friend group is very supportive and very honest with you. And hopefully in the next year, we'll see some major strides in this channel. I don't know, Blake. I mean, what are you looking for in the next year? A year from now, what do you want to see this channel have accomplished?
I want to have abs.
It's been a good 2022. Love you, Blake.
Love you, buddy. Happy New Year.
We'll see you guys next time.